The British Grand Prix was nothing short of a catastrophe for Sergio Perez. The Mexican driver's weekend was marred by a disastrous trip to the gravel during Q1, which brought out the red flag and prematurely ended his qualifying session. This unfortunate incident relegated him to the back of the grid for the start of Sunday's race. In a car that was widely expected to be well suited to the Silverstone circuit, Perez was anticipated to make significant progress through the field. However, he failed to live up to these expectations and instead found himself playing the role of a tire strategy guinea pig for his teammate Max Verstappen as the rain began to fall. This marked the sixth consecutive disappointing result for Perez, and despite a freshly inked two-year contract, the pressure on his position within the team is intensifying. The performance clauses in his new contract, which were leaked during the British Grand Prix, have put the Mexican driver at serious risk of losing his seat mid-season. The statistics that followed Perez's 17th place finish at the British Grand Prix paint a grim picture. Logan Sargent has outqualified Perez 6 times now. Yuki Tsunoda has made more Q3 appearances than Checo in the last 6 races. Nico Hülkenberg has scored more points in the last 2 races than Perez has in the last 6. Lance Stroll has matched Perez's points haul in that time as well. During those 6 races, Max Verstappen has outscored his teammate by a staggering 97 points. The magnitude of Checo's slump is impossible to ignore. Yet, there were mitigating factors at Silverstone. His trip to the gravel on a drying track in Q1 was unfortunate, but definitely his own fault. Daniel Ricciardo very nearly did the exact same thing right behind Checo. Mistakes do happen, and spinning on a drying track is very easy to do. If he wasn't in the run of poor results that he is, the spin would have been completely overlooked. But the context makes it look bad. Even from the back of the grid, the RB20 had the speed to get a points finish. Replacement power parts would send Perez to the pit lane for the race start, and he started to make progress. However, the Haas of Kevin Magnussen caused him some serious problems. He was stuck there for an age until the Danish driver managed to pass down to Ricciardo, putting Perez behind the Australian driver instead. Checo made short work of the VAB car and looked to be making moves. But on lap 20, as the rain started, Red Bull decided to roll the dice with his race. Checo pitted for intermediate tires during the light drizzle, but it turned out to be a terrible choice. Ferrari made the same mistake with Leclerc, though. Both drivers were on the wrong tire for 8 laps until the leaders pitted on lap 28 for intermediates. Any chance that Checo had of recovering to a points finish was completely ruined by those 8 laps on intermediates, and he eventually finished a full 2 laps down from the eventual winner, Lewis Hamilton. It was a disastrous result which could have been avoided. What made it even worse was the news that broke over the weekend regarding his contract situation. Before the British Grand Prix, Red Bull had explicitly communicated to Perez the need for a significant uptick in performance to secure his seat, with upcoming races in Hungary and Belgium before the summer break. Perez is under pressure to demonstrate substantial improvement. The urgency is compounded by the competitive tension from McLaren, who are coming for Red Bull in the Constructor Championship, and the Mercedes drivers, who are closely trailing and ready to overtake Sergio Perez's position in the driver's standings. If Perez doesn't improve before the summer break, then Red Bull are in a position to terminate his contract due to the performance clauses included in it. These clauses include not being more than 100 points behind Max Verstappen after the Belgian Grand Prix, with another understood to dictate that he cannot be more than 5 places behind Verstappen in the standings. Perez currently sits 137 points behind Verstappen and exactly 5 places behind his teammate. Perez last finished ahead of a Mercedes 7 races ago in Miami, meaning the odds of him staying ahead of either of them by the summer break is incredibly slim. It's entirely possible that after the Belgian Grand Prix, that final race before the summer break, he'll be 7 places behind his teammate in the championship standings and have over 150 points less to his name. The stakes are high, and the pressure is on for Perez to turn his season around. Performance clauses in contracts are a common feature in the high-stakes world of Formula One. These clauses serve as a safety net for both parties involved. If a driver underperforms, the team has the option to terminate the contract. Conversely, if the car fails to deliver, the driver is also protected. In the case of Sergio Perez, the performance criteria specified in his contract, coupled with the escalating challenges from rivals McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes, have put Red Bull in a position where they demand high performances from both of their drivers. If Perez fails to close the substantial gap or improve his standings, Red Bull might start considering replacements. Team boss Christian Horner has been a longtime supporter of Perez and is believed to have been instrumental in securing the Mexican's recent contract extension. However, even he had to admit after the race at Silverstone that his driver's performances were becoming a problem. "We have to be scoring points in that car," Horner said, "and he knows that. He knows his role and his target, so nobody's more eager than Checo to find his form again." When asked about Perez's qualifying error, Red Bull's Helmut Marko was surprisingly lenient on the driver, saying, "You can use the excuse that he was the first on the slick tires. The car is unpredictable, but it certainly doesn't help him get out of the crisis." However, Marko did go on to say that Checo's performances were a problem that needed solving and mentioned those performance clauses. Since he got the new contract, there have been a few not-so-good races. Of course, it's designed for performance, and no one is exempt from that. Considering Sergio Perez's form compared to the other 7 drivers who are battling for podiums at the moment, it is safe to assume that after the checkered flag falls in Belgium, he'll be far enough behind Verstappen for Red Bull to cancel his contract based on the performance clauses it contains. If you look at Red Bull's 2 most recent firings, that of Pierre Gasly and then Alex Albon, neither were performing as badly as Perez. Albon was let go at the end of 2020 after finishing 4 places and 109 points behind Verstappen after an entire season. Pierre Gasly was demoted out of a Red Bull seat after 12 rounds in 2019. At the time, he was 3 places and 93 points behind Verstappen. We're 12 rounds into the 2024 season at the moment, and Perez is performing far worse than Gasly was in 2019 relative to Verstappen. Of course, the question that will be on everyone's mind is who will replace him. It was revealed over the Silverstone weekend that Liam Lawson is scheduled to test a Red Bull F1 car at the track this week, putting him in the running for taking Sergio Perez's seat during the 4-week summer break. Of course, there are also the V-car drivers. Daniel Ricciardo was brought back to Formula One by the Red Bull team with the hope he would refine the performance levels he showed for Red Bull over half a decade ago. Yuki Tsunoda has dominated his teammate in the head-to-head, out-qualifying Ricciardo 9 times in 12 races and outscoring him 20 points to 11. With Ricciardo not living up to the expectations Christian Horner had of him and Tsunoda seemingly out of favor with the team boss, Liam Lawson has appeared as the favorite to gain a race seat mid-season. Lawson is scheduled to drive the RB20 at Red Bull's filming day at Silverstone on Thursday. Teams are not allowed to run private tests on their current cars except on 2 filming days, which cannot total more than 200 kilometers of running per day. It is rare but not unheard of for a reserve driver to get a run during one of these tests, and Red Bull putting Lawson in is proof that they want to know how he handles the current F1 car. 12 months ago, following the British Grand Prix, Red Bull used a Pirelli tire test to look at Ricciardo's potential in last year's RB19. His performance that day was enough to convince the squad to draft him in as a replacement for Nick de Vries, who had struggled to make an impression at AlphaTauri. The similarities with this situation are very hard to miss. Lawson hugely impressed during his 5 outings at Alpha last season, which included a 9th-place finish at the Singapore Grand Prix after Ricciardo injured his hand in a crash in the Netherlands. That form saw him emerge as a prime candidate to replace Ricciardo later this year if the team felt it needed to shake things up. But with Ricciardo showing improved form in recent races, that could secure his place for now. A Lawson move to Red Bull could be a way of keeping the New Zealander in the family, and it's rumored that he could contractually be free at the end of the year if he does not secure a race seat with the energy drinks giant for 2025. No one would deny that Sergio Perez has been a great servant for Red Bull, and at times has put in performances worthy of the quality of the car that Red Bull have produced in recent years. However, his current performance levels risk Red Bull losing the Constructor Championship, and that is something that the team cannot accept. The next 2 races are the most important of Checo's life because anything short of perfection could cost him his F1 career. Do you think Checo is still worthy of the Red Bull seat, or is the summer break the right time for Red Bull to cancel his contract? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of Formula One and want to stay updated with the latest news, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Keep the pedal to the metal, and we'll see you at the next race.